Please welcome Atlassian Senior Principal Product Manager, Peter Morris.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. We're well underway in Team Europe. How is everyone feeling? Yeah, all right. That is some good energy. I'm very excited you're here, and so is my co-presenter, Maggie, who will join us a little later. We're going to show you how to get the most from AI with the Atlassian Cloud Platform. And after all, AI is everywhere, and it comes with some pretty major promises. It'll make you more efficient, more innovative, and more competitive, and so on. And while some individuals may be seeing the benefits of AI by doing things like summarizing docs or rewriting emails or getting a head start on drafts, most customers we've recently surveyed are not experiencing the company-wide benefits that are promised to them. In fact, according to our most recent AI Collaboration Index, 96% of companies have not seen dramatic improvements in organizational efficiency, innovation, or work quality. And that's because there are often some deeper business challenges at play. Things like misaligned work, wasted effort, and inaccurate or incomplete information. And a big reason these challenges persist is because work across most organizations is scattered. Teams work across hundreds of different apps, often in really inconsistent ways. And this fragmentation makes cross-team communication and collaboration incredibly difficult because disparate tools don't integrate well, workflows are disconnected, and information is siloed. History has repeatedly taught us that technology alone will not solve your problems. Instead, it might just accelerate you in the wrong direction. But when you combine technology with a shared understanding of how to collaborate, you begin to unlock something really special. From our 20+ years of experience with teamwork, we believe successful technology-driven organizations have a clear understanding of three core elements: what they're doing, why they're doing it, and who is responsible. This understanding is the basis of an effective system of work. And if these elements are well connected, they form a consistent company-wide bond between teams to break down those silos, which then lays a solid foundation for AI adoption. And that's why choosing the right platform to reinforce those ways of working really matters. It must be a platform that you can trust and rely on. It must be one with an embedded data intelligence layer to understand all of your organizational context. And it must be one that has habit-building, context-enabled apps and AI built on top of it. It's those platform apps that I want to show you now, so that you can see how they help align teams, facilitate collaboration, and improve communication. And this is all things that you can do today. So here you can see I'm in Confluence, and I've started writing a strategy document. And like any good strategy, I want to explain the why behind the work. And that's why I have a section here dedicated to goals, where I've included the relevant goals that I've smart linked into this document. And because they're smart links, they're always up to date, pulling in data directly from the goals app, so I don't have to worry about maintaining information in two different places. Now, we could go directly to the goals app from here, but I'm actually going to show you how to get there from the app switcher. This is going to land us in the goals directory, which centralizes goals across the entire organization. And that means anyone can come in here and see the top-level goals that are set by our leadership teams and drill down to see the individual contributions of each of the teams underneath it. And if this is too much information, I can actually filter down by things like status or owner or team, and then I can save those filters into saved views, like this one that shows my platform goals for FY26. Now, you're probably wondering, how do we actually create a goal? Well, it's pretty straightforward. All I need is a name and a target date. Now you can begin to see the other types of information we capture about a goal. But rather than make you watch me type all of that out, I'm going to pivot to one that we've created earlier. So from here, you can see the type of information that we at Atlassian like to capture about our goals. Sure, it's easy for anyone to actually create a goal, but we really encourage deep thought and careful consideration about whether it's the right goal for the team. That's why over here, you can see we've included a hypothesis about why we think this is the right goal. We've also included some key information about what value we think it's driving for customers. And if I keep scrolling, you can see a table that shows the key result scoring and the progress we expect to make throughout the year. The side panel has even more context about the goal, such as the parent and the sub-goals, so you can see how these goals ladder up and down across the organization. So that's a little about the why. What about the who? So still over here in the side panel, you can see we have clearly identified the single owner for the goal, so we know who's responsible, and we've identified the teams who contribute to this goal. But say I don't know those teams, and I want to learn a little bit more about them. I could go back to the app switcher and navigate to the Teams app from here, or I can click on one of these goals specifically to go to their team profile. And now this is the team profile page. This is where I can come to learn anything about any team or individual at my company. It starts with some team links here that show the places and spaces where they work. So if I need any additional information, I can dive a little deeper. On the left, you can see the individual members of that team, so I know who to talk to if I have any questions. And then here I can also see a live permission-aware activity feed of the work that these individuals are doing, so I can stay across the decisions they're making and the deliverables they're creating. And then finally, if I keep scrolling, I can see all of the goals that these teams are contributing to, so I can understand what's motivating them and how they're making their priority calls. So now we've seen why we're doing the work using the Goals app. And we know who is responsible thanks to the Teams app. You might be wondering how we know what work is actually happening. And the truth is, work happens everywhere. Sure, some of it is captured in Jira, but I think we all know that a lot of it happens in other tools or in no tool at all. Regardless of where and how it's happening, teams need something that's designed to keep everyone informed, aligned, and up to date. And that's why we're excited to introduce the Projects app, your new company-wide directory designed to keep all of your stakeholders in the loop. Projects, along with teams and goals, are just a few of Atlassian's platform apps. These apps are the ones that we believe are critical in helping customers adopt a shared system of work. And that's why they're included as part of every Atlassian offering. So now let me guide you through how all of this organizational context shows up in a typical day-to-day workflow. We're going to first start in another one of my favorite platform apps, Home. Home is where I like to start my day or where I return to when I'm in between tasks. It's personalized to me, showing the spaces I frequently visit across a variety of apps. It also centralizes updates across those apps, helping me stay on top of relevant activity across the company. And as you can see here, it will soon organize that activity into bite-sized threads so I can better understand how all that work relates to each other. On this occasion, I want to go back to the strategy brief that I was working on earlier, and I can find that in my Worked On tab and jump straight back in. With a page like this, a big focus for me is making sure that it has the right context for all key stakeholders. Here are those goals I was referring to earlier, and now with our new preview panels, I can actually open them from right here within Confluence. However, the team has been asking some questions lately about how we'll balance new goals with existing ones. So I'd like to better understand the status of those goals that they're already contributing to. Rovo now lets me ask data-driven questions, a new feature that's in preview as part of our Home Dashboards beta. With the power of the Teamwork Graph and Rovo's ability to query our analytics engine, I can get a quick visual showing the status of the goals that my team is contributing to. I can see that the team's going to need new goals soon because we'll retire the on-track ones at the end of the quarter. And I'm not the only one who would benefit from these data-driven insights. The rest of my stakeholders would too. So, to ensure that we're not acting on assumptions or guesswork, I'm going to make sure that this chart is visible to anyone who reads this strategy page. Another area I'm keen to drive alignment on is our go-to-market plan for this strategy. The last time I was working on this, I tagged my marketing partner Maggie for help, and I can see from her response that her team is working on it. But I'm usually in Sydney, and Maggie's usually in San Francisco, so if I wanted more info, I could reply here, but I'd have to wait until the following morning for her to get to reply back to me. Or I could self-serve via the Projects app to see what her team is working on. So again, I'll kickstart this by asking Rovo. Rovo has access to all of that same organizational context that we use to keep our teams aligned and up to date. So it can easily find what I need in just a few moments. And if I need more detail, I can then go a little deeper by clicking on the project. This is the Projects app, and you'll notice it looks a lot like the goals page that we saw earlier. And that's by design. The goal shows the outcome we want, while the project is one of the many things that we are doing to achieve it. But these two things are intrinsically linked. There is no what without the why. And so every time we create a project, it gets linked to a goal. And here, I can quickly see that Maggie's team is doing this work to support our platform adoption goals. I can also see the dependencies and related projects if I want to chase down other work that might impact or be impacted by this project. And finally, I can see which teams are contributing and who is following along for updates. Speaking of updates, we know that delivering timely updates for everyone isn't easy, because not everyone has the time to consume every level of detail related to the work. With the Updates tab, I can quickly understand where the team has been focused at an altitude that every stakeholder can understand. Maggie's team curates a short update here every week and communicates it out to its followers. And so I don't miss future updates. I'm going to add myself as a follower to this project as well. Now, I can just regularly check the Status Updates tab back in Home to see the updates from this project alongside all the other projects and goals that I follow, so that I'm always in the loop. In just a few minutes, I was able to go from being relatively uninformed about the status of this project to having a clearer understanding of what's being done. And I didn't have to distract anyone with a meeting in the calendar or a direct message asking if they've got a quick 5 minutes for a chat. Okay, in summary, the addition of the Projects app completes your ability to answer what you're doing, why you're doing it, and who's responsible across your entire organization. And once you do that, you've not only built a set of habits for how teams collaborate, but you've also laid a strong foundation for organizational context that fuels more effective AI. But that's not the only critical information in your business. So let's talk about how you can expand that organizational context. As we spoke about earlier, work is happening across hundreds of different tools on a daily basis, and each of those tools acts as a disconnected data silo. And these silos are harmful, not just because they hurt team collaboration, but research shows that AI pilots suffer and often fail because AI can't tap into the critical information that makes your business tick. With goals, teams, and projects established as the foundation of that context, you can start to capture, relate, and understand everything else that's happening across all of your tools. And all of that comes together in what you've come to know as the Teamwork Graph, our platform's data intelligence layer. This morning you heard how quickly it's evolving, as it now maps over 100 billion unique relationships. And we now add 1.5 billion third-party objects to the graph every week. And while we're excited about the continued growth of the graph, we also recognize that each and every one of you is different. One company's graph is going to look very different to another company's, which is why we're giving you more ways to represent what is unique about you. You've always been able to connect data to the graph using Atlassian's built connectors. But as you heard this morning, we're so excited to be opening up the Teamwork Graph to the Atlassian developer community through Forge. This move unblocks partners to bring new external data to the graph by developing custom Teamwork Graph connectors. And a shout out to our early access partners, Unito and Pio, who have already published connectors to the Atlassian marketplace. You can start using these today. More data in the graph means you can find and understand it when and where you need it. Let me show you what I mean. Let's imagine I'm a marketer trying to boost awareness for a recently launched product called TeamScope. We've created supporting goals for this, and now it's time to provide our monthly update. We've made progress on defining target segments, but I'd like to provide more context on recent sales for my key stakeholders. To get that information, I could just ask Rovo, and deal info, and it will find the deal info that's stored in HubSpot. Thanks to the new Teamwork Graph connector, custom developed by Atlassian partner Pio. In seconds, and without being pulled away from my update, I have the extra context I needed on sales performance that I can now add to raise awareness with the rest of my stakeholders. And we're not just expanding the ways that you can bring external data into the Teamwork Graph. Very soon, Forge developers will be able to build powerful new experiences like custom apps and agents using all of the rich data found in the Teamwork Graph. But what about that data that only applies to your business? Maybe it's the intricacies of your region or industry, or perhaps those ways of operating that really give you a differentiated edge. For example, maybe it's the car parts if you're an F1 team, or maybe medical equipment if you're in the healthcare industry, or maybe it's priceless art pieces like you saw in the museum example this morning. Our JSM customers have been enjoying this type of customization for a while now, but we're excited to bring it all to all paid Atlassian customers by adding assets to our lineup of platform apps. And to take us through how this comes to life, please let me welcome Maggie to the stage.
Hi everybody, I'm Maggie and nice to see you all. We're going to show you how assets can be used to help manage all your events. And we are going to start where everything starts with assets, in the Assets app. And here you are seeing all of your object schemas and assets where you can basically bring together both your physical and digital objects. And in this case, you're seeing all of the schemas associated with a company's events. And you can even click into the location schema to see all of the rooms that will be used at the event, from breakout rooms to conference rooms, you name it. You've got them all in there. And now that Assets is a platform app, that's going to show up everywhere. Like here, you can see in Confluence some of the assets that are going to help them manage all of these rooms on a page. You can see status and all the equipment associated with each of the rooms. And these are always going to stay in sync. So if you ever update anything anywhere else in any of the other apps, you'll actually see that piece of equipment get added or the status change. And in fact, here, we're going to make an edit to one of the rooms. And all you have to do, you don't have to go back to the Assets app, but you're going to be able to just click into the main hall in the Confluence page. And you're going to see all of those details actually pop up on the side in a preview panel. You've seen this a couple of times now, I think, throughout many of the sessions today. But this is a new capability that we're bringing to certain experiences across the portfolio to allow you to actually stay in context and not have to keep jumping around apps. And as we know, I think if anyone's ever been involved in an event before, logistics can change quickly. And if you're looking here, you can see the main hall is not ready. The reason it's not ready is they're adding yet another speaker to this particular session that's going to happen in the main hall, and they need another mic before they can actually start setup. So what we are going to do is we need to see where the mics are. We're going to go to Rovo Chat, and we're going to just ask, what are the available mics that are not assigned to a room yet in the convention center? And quickly, Rovo is going to get started and give you a number of different mics. And the very first one at the top, mic 21, is actually in the main hall storage. Great, right by. So we're going to go ahead and try and get that added to this particular room. And again, you are not going to need to leave this. You're going to just head back into the preview panel, add mic to the 21, and now it's loaded in. And from there, you're going to be able to actually update the status as ready to set it up. And that's going to start triggering a number of different workflows. The first one is going to take you to your favorite place in Jira. So work items been created in Jira in the main hall for the conference room. They're going to see all the linked assets are ready to go, and then they're going to start updating the status. You would have saw that it was going to update the status and trigger through all those, and then once that's complete, it's actually going to show up inside the assets dashboard, where you can see that the main hall is no longer purple. It has moved much more green, so now it's ready to set up. But it does look like one of the rooms is having a problem. We have breakout room A, and that is very purple. So let's understand what's actually happening. So again, since Assets is now in the platform, you are going to be able to just head up to the top and go to Rovo Search. And C, just quickly type in breakout room A, and what will pop up, the actual breakout room A asset will show up, and we will be able to click in, and it will immediately take you to breakout room A asset. From there, you're going to be able to see all of the linked objects to this particular room, like the whiteboard or the projector, and even scroll a little bit further to see all of the linked work items. And here, this is where you're going to find your problem. We have one of the room is still being cleaned, and there's a couple of other work items that are still out of date. So now you know exactly why we are not ready yet. And so I want you all to know, now that Assets is a platform app, it's not only going to be available across the platform, allow you to track both your physical and digital objects, but most importantly, you should remember, it's going to be connected into the teamwork graph, which is going to allow the teamwork graph to be more customized to you. And Assets is not just for the museum that you saw earlier or for planning events. It is for any single use case. It's for all of you, and I want to make sure that you start using this as soon as you can and make the graph as tailored as possible. Now, I know you heard a lot from Pete and I today, but we want to quickly just recap, talking through some of the teamwork graph announcements that both Pete covered and then Assets, which I just talked through, because this is something that you can now interact with, and we have a couple of call to actions that we want you to start with. So the first one is we do want you to join our early access program to start creating new custom connectors to bring more of your organizational context into the graph. Second, many of you are already using Teamwork Graph to actually power some of the agents that you're building, but by December, we're going to be rolling out the EAP for you to basically access our graph APIs in Forge and bring in your own, basically use it to build your apps as well. And then finally, you've got Assets. We'd love to have you stop by the booth later and hear all of the different use cases for how you think you're going to be able to take advantage of this across the platform, no longer just in Jira Service Management. So again, please remember, there's a couple of EAPs live now and that you can join. If you head to the booth later, they'll be able to get you signed up for any of those. And then before I bring Becky from Expedia on stage to kind of talk through how she's been using a lot of the capabilities in the platform, I just want to quickly recap everything that you've seen from Pete and I today. So first, you heard Pete talk a lot about the importance of all the platform apps. They are truly the ingredients of the system of work that we've built into our platform, making available across the entire portfolio. They're not only going to help you find the who, the what, the why that Pete talked about and bring those types of habits into your daily workflows, but they're really going to transform how you're using the rest of Atlassian apps. And then we talked a little bit about the teamwork graph as well and how powerful it is. The main takeaway you should all have is it's not just a graph that we're building, it's now a graph that is being built with you. And we'd love to see it basically continue to shape that. And with that, I would like to welcome Becky to the stage, and we'll get going with the fireside chat.
Hello.
How are you? Everyone ready? Well, let's get started. Let's first start off with hearing a little bit about your role at Expedia.
Yeah. I lead IT engineering for enterprise productivity. What that means is basically all the workplace technology, collaboration tools, and especially work management applications that employees use every day to manage their work.
Awesome. And then we understand that you've recently moved to the cloud platform, and would love to hear a little bit more about how your teams are using our platform now that you're on cloud, and even how you've been using them. I think you've been on Atlassian for over 13 years now.
It's been a long time, yes. We have 16,000 users in Jira and Confluence, loved by so many teams. 100% of our product and tech teams are in Jira, probably about 80% of our business overall. And they obviously use them for day-to-day projects and work prioritization. They were very hesitant to move to cloud, so it's been quite a journey for us.
And when we were talking earlier, you were sharing some of the things that you've done to actually help them want to embrace the cloud. Would love to hear some of the tips that you found really helpful for getting them to adopt and be excited.
Yeah, for sure. Well, being over so many tools, I recognize whenever I'm enforcing change on someone's day, it's a lot, right? It can be really disruptive. So we wanted to have a whole change plan around that, like making sure that we were bringing people along for the journey. We also felt like Atlassian cloud products were at a point where like they were really exciting to onboard to, because you get new features that we didn't have, especially AI. And our employees wanted more efficient, simple tools to use. So we knew we could craft some messaging around that. So we did a lot of campaigning, education, demos, and then especially just that whole bringing the business along means you bring people in to test early and help them see the value themselves so that they can go start spreading that information to their teams.
And you had one really fun campaign, it sounded like, in particular, that you found successful. Could you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, my favorite thing the team did was the 10 days of Jira. So leading up to the cloud migration, we wanted to give short bursts of videos kind of showing the cool features you're going to get in Jira before you move, because visually, people can learn faster that way. So we had a whole campaign of like 3 to 4 minute videos where you could learn about a new piece of functionality ahead of getting access, which we were hoping would help with that initial Monday, right? Coming into the platform, and it definitely did.
Awesome. And then while it was very exciting and you did lots of things to get people excited, we know there was a lot of decisions that had to be made around standardization, just given you'd been in data center for so many years. So would love to hear kind of some of the things that you set up to establish those new standard ways of working and what that looked like.
Yeah, I mean, because we've had Jira for so long, it felt a little bit like the Wild West. I don't know about you, but Expedia goes through some reorgs from time to time. And I don't know about you, but project teams don't necessarily want to close or archive things. So what that looks like is a lot of data that we didn't really want to bring over. So cleanup was huge for us ahead of the migration, but also, really slowing down how much we do customization. So that's a hard spot to be in, to say no to your employees and say, let me become more of a consultant for you in this way and help you figure out how to use different objects, different field types in Jira rather than just allowing all customization possible. So that was a big step for us. I think the other thing we talked about was making sure we had the business at the table as we were starting to make decisions on which fields we wanted to make standard.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really important part.
And I believe you had told me, that you had even set up like a governance steerco of some sort.
Yeah.
Could you potentially tell us a little bit about what the process of setting that up looked like and kind of how you guys met, what types of decisions you all made together? That sounded really interesting.
Yeah, well, we didn't want to do that alone. I've set up some steercos at the company over time, but this one I wanted to make sure that we had Atlassian's help. So we're using advisory services, and they are with us every step of the way, helping us figure out how to create a decision-making framework for stakeholders and then bringing that group together. We also have a really amazing project team internally at Expedia to help. So we're engaging representation from every part of the business, and that means every function too. So not just our technologists who are really familiar with Jira, but some of those other teams that use it as well. So bringing them together, having them be really champions internally for how to use Jira in the right way. And then if we need to make a hard decision around reducing more custom fields, or do we want this plugin or not, we can leverage them to help message that within their teams.
Awesome. And then I think I was asking you earlier, just as a little get to know you, but wanted to hear what you thought one of the biggest announcements that you were specifically most excited to bring back to your teams this week.
Yeah, well, we've been using Rovo for about a little over a month. We already have a lot of adoption too, but just seeing today that you've got Canvas coming within Rovo, just that ability to take what Rovo provides back and then do some editing and reframing it a little bit if you need before you share it out. The whiteboarding feature also looked really exciting and interesting because everybody, as part of that product planning, wants to ideate and figure out how to bring together lots of amounts of data to make intelligent decisions. So I think both of those features look really cool.
And how are your teams using Rovo yet, and as you've moved over, and what has that looked like, or what are the things that they're most excited to use?
Yeah, I just want to say around AI, I feel like it's it's moving so fast, but especially in SaaS tools, everybody is expecting it there now in multiple platforms. So it's been really cool to see with Rovo, one, the chat feature, how easy it is for a leader to go in who maybe had to rely on a program manager before to create a JQL query for them and produce a report. You can go in yourself and ask questions and find data quickly. I think on top of that, like really just being able to consolidate data smoothly and not have to click around. Like ease of navigation is another huge difference. I think just I'm always thinking about productivity and time savings and what does that look like for every type of role in the tool.
Great. And wanted to Rovo, in addition to Rovo, Pete talked a lot about some of the platform apps. And I know you mentioned you guys are starting to use Home a little bit, but also considering how you're going to drive adoption of goals across the organization, which I know can be pretty challenging and having, especially at the size of Expedia. So I'd love to hear kind of what those plans look like for you.
Yeah. Well, Home, it's subtle, but just the ability to not have to context switch from Jira and Confluence and different apps, that's been a really nice improvement. Again, time savings, right?
Yeah.
Just making every little bit of friction you can go away. But we are excited about goals because it's been hard for us to land on an OKR tool. We've used spreadsheets a lot, tried to do it in Jira, Tableau, like, should we buy another tool? So just that it is now available and you're building so many features into it, just seeing some of it today was exciting to know like what's coming to. So I think we want to be able to balance how we are structuring data more effectively to make it easier for people to use OKR tooling consistently. And Goals is just going to help us expedite that process.
Awesome. And then it's awesome to hear that you're in cloud and loving it, but I also know you guys had a pretty amazing kind of move over to the cloud. I think it was 16,000 users in less than 3 months. So I'd love to hear kind of what would be some of your tips to anyone who might be going through that in the audience, what you'd recommend they kind of get going with, or what quick wins you found really easy to get in the bag once you were in cloud.
That's a good question. We use the Fast Shift program. I'm sure you've heard about it already, but I don't think we could have moved as quickly as we did without that team. As part of our migration, we really were hesitant about disrupting the business. So the decision on do you phase out your migration? Do you do a big bang? What data do you bring over? Like I said, we had a lot of old data. So the cleanup was huge for us. Getting people excited about what's coming and new features was huge for us. But also, again, using Atlassian's Fast Shift team helped us actually manage the time effectively and feel like we had a good partner in the room to get through some of those really big decisions and complex technical challenges.
And I think you also told me a couple of hey, when we got in cloud, these were some of the things that we saw users doing right away, really easy wins for them to kind of just get using new capabilities they never had access before. So I'd love to hear maybe one or two of those types of things.
Yeah, well, with Rovo especially, I've got teams who are now, for sprint summaries, for example, they're taking Jira and Confluence information, Rovo automatically every 2 weeks posts that in Slack. So that makes it visible even for people who aren't in Jira or Confluence every day, right? So just the ability to get a lot of information distilled quickly without having to navigate that yourself was a big impact for someone's individual day, I think activity tracking is another one that, I've heard is really popular. So it's looking through your backlog, and Rovo can help you understand the status of what's happening, how long something's taking, if something is blocked, where you might need to prioritize something that's more of a P1 issue. A lot of that cognitive load that someone had to do on a day-to-day basis, now Rovo is assisting them to do that. And that just, I think, is creating more momentum for people to try out AI.
Awesome. And then I know we're reaching time, so I will leave you with one final question. But if you had one piece of advice for the audience, kind of in terms of either what to absolutely make sure you're adopting within the platform or how your journey is to get there, what would maybe that one or two things be?
Yeah, I mean, I would say don't wait. If you're still and if you're in analysis paralysis and it's hard to make the decision on do you move to cloud, or with AI and the security around it, like really be partnering with your privacy and security teams on what that looks like for you. But also, like, you might feel like you need to hit all the requirements and have everybody at the table in full agreement before you make the change, but that may never happen, and it's so valuable to the company that now that we've moved over, we're on the other side of it. But it's stressful when you have a lot of people who are nervous about change. So just got to figure out how to manage that effectively using your communications team, your program managers, your business partners. And I think if you can do that well, then it's time.
Well, thank you very much. Please give Becky a big thank you for joining us today. And we'll both be around.
Thanks.